Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We are just waiting so that people can hop on. We'll give everybody just a minute here. We're trying a little bit of a different setup here, as you can see. So, me and Catherine are in the same building, just in different studios right now. Just trying different things as we keep doing these monthly events for you guys, and just kind of trying different stuff out to see what works best on your end, what kind of looks best, is easiest to watch, and all of that. So thank you for bearing with us as we play with all these different
Changing things around.
Yeah, we're switching it up. I come in sometimes and I'm like, 20 minutes ago, I'm telling Catherine, like, yeah, we're going to be on separate screens today. And she just goes along with my ideas. So
you just tell me where to go and I'll be
there. We're a great team that way. So today our topic is going to be how not to be a PITA. So first of all, how
not
many
pita
of
bread.
you? Nah, we're not talking bread. How many of you know what a PITA is? Anybody? PITA. Pain in the... I'm going to censor myself on here. I don't know if there are kids watching. So, yeah. Yep. So, a pain in the butt. Thank you, Holly. Holly put it in the chat if you don't know what I'm talking about. So often we are always like, oh, make sure you're following directions. Make sure you're doing this. Make sure you're doing that. We're always telling you the things to do, right? What about the things not to do? Because we also see a ton of them. So often it's like we're constantly talking about the things that people are doing, and we're like, why did they do that? Right. Or just certain like experiences we've had where it's like, whoa, like that's not how you do that. That's not how you behave in a session. That's not how you talk to somebody. Casting director or not, doesn't matter. That's not how you talk to somebody. We've even had phone calls where it's like, people are talking to us like we're just the receptionist or whatever. And it's like, who cares if I'm the casting director or the receptionist? You treat us as people, like we're all people. So there's all kinds of things that we're gonna kind of touch on. Whether they're general rules to kind of follow of what not to do, or even just some pet peeves that we have that I think a lot of other casting directors probably have as well.
Tips for not driving casting directors crazy.
That's what this should be called. You don't want to drive us crazy. Make life a little bit easier. Yeah.
And a lot of these are things we've seen multiple people do. It's not just one specific person.
Yes.
So these are things people do, and just giving you guys the little insight onto maybe.
We've generalized it from over the years. Yes. This has not just happened to one of us. It's happened to everybody on our casting team multiple times from various people. So, just some things to watch out for. And I'm sure a lot of you watching are probably going to, your jaws might drop and be like, what? Somebody did that? Yeah.
Or you may even say, oh no, I've done that. And, we understand too. I mean, we're all people, we're all human, we all mess up. It's okay. Just don't make a habit of it.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody makes mistakes. Like we are all human. So obviously one of the biggest things that drives me crazy is not following instructions. So we're constantly saying, just look at the directions. But even more so than that I know Catherine can speak to, is not reading emails. Please read the email all the way through. I promise you, every question that you have is probably in that email. And if it's not, if you've read through the email and you're sure that it's not in there, then reach out. We're happy to answer questions anytime. But definitely read the email. Catherine, how many emails a day do you get where it's a question that's already been answered?
All the time. I find this mostly in the class emails. Both when a class is starting, I'll send out a confirmation email, and it'll say what class it's for, the day the class starts, what time it is, how the class is meeting. Like, everything is in this email. And without fail, there's almost always one person at least who, oh, what time is the class starter? Oh, what date is the class on? It's in the email. It's right there at the top. It's in bold. How did you miss this? Like,
bold, highlighted.
Right there. Right there.
I get it all the time with our casting emails as well. When we send you an email for auditions, everything is in there. Yes, I am human, and sometimes there's a typo and there's a discrepancy from the labeling in the email and on the document. It happens. I try not to let it happen. It happens. Feel free to ask, or just do it one or the other, because at that point, by the time you're probably asking, I've probably gotten, 10 other emails saying the same thing. Do whichever one. We are not going to count that against you because my mistake. So it's just being aware and paying attention. That's one of those things is we don't have time to be holding hands all the time and be saying the same things over and over. I can't tell you how often, and I don't do it to be, snarky, but there are times when I just copy a section of the email, put it in the response, and then that's it. I don't say anything else because that's all I have time for. Like, I already wrote it all out. Please look at that, so that is such a huge thing. If you can just read everything that we send you, and
if you don't see it right away, if you're second guessing, oh no, maybe read it a second time before you email.
Yeah, I promise we try really hard to put all the information that we possibly can in every single email, whether it's for workshops, our newsletter, for auditions, all of it. We try to include everything possible.
Everything you need.
So that you don't
hold on to those emails too. If down the line you have a question, it's probably you can refer back to that.
Yep. And they get long. Like, I get it. They get long. And, if you've been on our list for auditions, it's like, it's a template, it's like we're essentially sending the same template of emails out. So I get that you're probably like, oh, I've read this email 100 times. Okay, great. But any new information is going to be in there. So just look at it again. Just take that extra minute, please. Please. And then along those same lines is the neediness. So, and Catherine can talk even more as well. She deals with it a lot.
There's a bad stereotype about actors and being needy, and most of the time it's not true. Most of you guys are self-sufficient. You know what's going on. You know what you're doing. But especially, we'll get actors sometimes that they just need that extra stroke of the ego or that extra hand holding, and it can be tiring. Have some confidence in yourself. Believe in yourself. If you're an actor, you gotta have that confidence. You gotta, let that shine through, especially on auditions and things. And we'll get actors that come in, and especially I see it with our VO and Go service. An actor will come in and they'll do a great job, and you'll say, "Oh yeah, that was great," or "That was good," and they're like, "Was it really? I don't know. Was it good enough? Are you sure?" Yes, if it wasn't good, I wouldn't say that. Or, like, trust yourself and trust if you're coming to us that we're going to give you honest feedback. Don't make me have to sing your praises from the mountaintop. Just trust that, yes, yeah, that was great. That was good. If I didn't like it, I would give you a redirect, or I would give you another suggestion of something else to try.
Yeah. And same thing in sessions. It's like, if the client is super happy, then you come in and you're like, oh, but could I just try one more thing? Then it's like, oh, but the client is happy.
Or the actor, are you sure? Did I give you everything you needed?
Yeah. Yes. You look insecure at that point, and again, you want to have that confidence. And secondly, you start making the clients second guess themselves. You do that too much. You don't want them to second guess you to the point where they recast you because they're like, I don't know if this is working. If the client is happy, leave it be. Even if you're like, I don't feel like that was my best session ever, it's okay. The client was happy.
If they got what they wanted.
Try to own that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes, Kristen, take yes for an answer. I love that. Yeah. Yes. Goes both ways, right? Take no for an answer, take yes for an answer. When we say we love it, we're not just going to say we love something just to like get you out of the booth. That doesn't benefit anybody.
We want you to sound good.
Yeah. Well, the better you guys sound, the better it makes us look when we're, casting you.
Exactly. And kind of going off that a little bit is being on time for things. If you have a session, don't show up right at the start time. I know something's happened, traffic, it's unpredictable. You never know. But always leave early enough that you get there. You've got enough time to park. You can get to the studio, get to the booth. A lot of times we'll have references we need to show actors. And if you're showing up, if your session's at 10 a.m. and you're right there at 10 a.m. or 10:01, now we're losing time because I've got stuff you need to watch beforehand, So always come in prepared. You want to have a chance to look at the script beforehand so you can just jump right in. It drives me nuts when actors are not just a little bit early so that we can cover all that. So when the client is on the line, we can just jump right in. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
And being prepared.
Yeah. Always be prepared. And, it's like, on time is late. Yeah. Early is on time.
Exactly.
We'd much rather have you waiting for a few minutes than rushing you in the booth, like, watch this while we're setting up this. And then, and then it's like, you're out of breath and stressed out. And, we want it to be the best experience for everyone. Obviously, things happen. If you're in LA, I get that traffic happens. Try your best to account for that. I know we're all guilty of it. We've all been late because of traffic, but do your best. And along those same lines is also just responsiveness. If we're trying to get a hold of you, make sure you're responding. And whether that is because you're running late for a session, hopefully you could at least call us and let us know. Or talk to text or
email
something.
Some sort of heads up so we know you're on the way.
Yeah. And then, if we're trying to reach you to get you booked, respond as soon as possible. If we're checking your avail, respond as soon as possible. If we're looking for confirmations for a class or something else, respond.
Please don't ghost us.
As possible.
It drives us crazy.
It happens all the time.
All the time. Please don't make me have to email you 5 times and call and leave a dozen messages. Yeah. Just get back to us.
And that goes with scheduling appointments. Scheduling appointments has been a thing that you've dealt with recently, Catherine, too.
Yes. If we have an appointment set and we call, this can be for a VO and go. Some people do them remotely over the phone. It can be for a demo meeting. It can, all kinds of things. If we have an appointment set and we call you, it shouldn't be going to voicemail. That I feel like I got a bunch of that in the last couple weeks. Every phone call I had set up, nobody answered. It's like, wait a minute, this was the time we agreed on this time. What's going on? And again, things come up, things change. That's fine. Just give us a heads up. Say, hey, I can't make this time. Can we reschedule? No problem. But I shouldn't be calling you over and over again, going, hey, just checking in. We had an appointment set up. Where are you? That kind of stuff. Like, we've got other things we could be doing. We're not just sitting around waiting for you guys to reach out to us. So
we're extremely busy. Extremely busy. It's like every second of every day is taken up. So it's like, if you have an appointment with us, make sure you're there.
Make us what you do.
Not always easy to reschedule. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. What else did we have?
Oh, again, kind of going up with the, being prepared. Make sure when you're coming in for an audition or Yeah, not always for a session because you don't always get the script ahead of time. But if you do, have looked at it beforehand. It drives me bonkers. We get this with VO and Go a lot, where people come into the booth and they're like, all right, give me a few minutes to look it over. No, you should have done that before you got here. The VO and Go service is, you do all the prep beforehand and then you come in. This isn't the time for you to be looking at things and playing with what choices you might want to make. You do that on your time and then you come to us. Or sometimes people do remote VO and Goes or remote demo records, things like that. When it's time for that session to start, I don't want you futzing with your equipment. Do all that troubleshooting beforehand. Don't be like, oh, no, wait, hold on. I gotta get my mic plugged in. Or, oh, my computer is about to die. I need to charge it. Like, do all that stuff before the time. Maybe test things out. Make sure your levels are good. I don't want to record a great take with you and then you're like, oh, wait, it's peaking. Okay, well, now we got to try and recapture that magic. So make sure all those things are ironed out before we start. Because otherwise you're just wasting our time.
Just like you'd be setting up for a session. You're not going to do that with a client on the phone, right? So, and also you just don't want to waste your time. It's not it's our time, but it's also your time. So, don't be wasting that time. The other thing that I want to add too, just in general is, being easy to work with, being, somebody who's willing to play and, it just being fun to work with. I say this all the time in my classes and everywhere else is like, I literally listen for people who sound like they're going to be fun to work with, whether that's they're giving variety in their takes or like they just sound friendly and fun. We have had so many people over the years who have gone into sessions and I've had clients come back then and be like, they were pretty difficult to work with. Or like we had a guy in an audition one time who was like, he did a take, redirected him, got another take. Okay, great. We're going to save that one for take one. Let's get a take two. And he's like, I only do 2 takes. Otherwise I have to be paid for the third. Like, what? Who are you? Had a guy who threw a fit over headphones, things like that. It's like, I understand that things may not be perfect. The client might be difficult to work with, or there's any number of things that can, be happening, but try your best to keep it professional. And
as casting directors, we're good at making mental notes. We'll remember the good people and we'll remember the bad.
Yeah.
So don't
I scan the auditions that come in, and if there are some of those people who have been difficult over the years and they've auditioned through their agents for us or whatever, I just automatically, I don't even listen to them. Why would I waste my time on somebody that I will never send into a session again? Especially when there are so many great people out there. And that's one of the reasons why we love, talking to you guys. We love teaching the classes and doing workout groups and whatever else, because we get to know your voices. We get to know how you are to work with, so that when we're putting you forward to the client, we can confidently, when we're submitting 15 people, we can confidently be like, these people are talented. They are what you want. And they're good people, fun to work with, easy to work with. And ultimately, every project that we're doing, as a casting director, we are a luxury nowadays. There are so many casting sites out there for voiceover. We're a luxury to clients. Like, any client could pay less and probably go on a casting website and get hundreds of auditions to listen to. But we are here to weed those out, not only by talent and who actually fits the spec. Not everybody fits the spec. That's another pet peeve. But also by, allowing, the client can trust that we have vetted people, and it's like, if I do book somebody new, then what I'm trusting is the agent, because we've also vetted the agents that we work with. So, it's not to say that you have to know us personally to ever be submitted to the client, But it is one of those things where it's like we have to take certain steps to make sure that the very few people we are submitting on every project is, meets all of these criteria. They have to be able to fit the spec, have the skill and versatility and range that we're looking for, and be good to work with. So, and yeah, I mean, I kind of just touched on it, but specs, if you don't fit the specs, don't read for it. I mean, that is a huge...
Don't waste your time. Don't waste the casting people's time or the client's time. Yeah.
Some actors will tell me like, oh, well, I see it as practice. It's like, okay, well then practice it, but don't submit it. Don't waste our time, because there are a few people, I feel like I could name like 10 people I don't even think I've ever met. But I've listened to so many of their auditions now over the years that I could list them off, and like I can look through a casting submissions and know like they are way too old, or they are way too young for this, or like I can tell that they don't fit the spec. Even down to, this has happened a few times recently where we're casting and they're very specific. They want an American voice. So a lot of things have opened up, and they're not necessarily specifying accents and stuff anymore. So it's like I feel like a lot of people are reading on more things, but if it specifically says American and you have a British accent, pass on that one. Just don't waste your time. That's not what they're looking for.
There's so many Americans that are going to be reading on that.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you're not British, maybe don't read on the British accent, unless it's like animation or something. Leave that to the British.
Absolutely. Awesome. Anything else you want to add to that topic, Catherine? I feel like we could talk about that all day. Right? But those are really the big things that come up.
Those are the major ones that we see over and over and over again. Yeah. Believe in yourself. Trust in yourself. Be a nice human being. Be polite.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. It's a collaboration. Like, we're all in this together. Yeah. It's
like we want you to be good. The client wants you to be good. Everyone wants you to succeed. So don't.
Yeah.
Don't put roadblocks up.
Against you. Yeah, nobody's against you. It's we are all working together. All right. So feel free to throw any questions that you have in the comments, and we will start going through some questions. I see
Jacob's got a question about strikes.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, good question. I'm gonna pop this one up here for. So you can see Jacob is asking, Voicecaster casts across the gamut for commercial, animation, interactive. When a strike happens, like now, does that change the balance of how many auditions come in? So the biggest thing that is going to change. So obviously, right now there's an interactive strike. SAG-AFTRA is on strike for the interactive contracts. And there are interim contracts as well. So, if video game companies want to continue working, they can sign those contracts and work under those. Otherwise, it's advised that you don't go against the strike. Nobody's working on video games right now. So yes, that can absolutely affect things. So right now, we're not going to be casting any video games unless they are under those interim contracts with SAG. And the same thing goes for, but it's, that's not going to affect commercials. It's not going to affect animation. The other contracts are not affected by it. So that is all, they're all dependent upon the contract that is under negotiation. So that, right now, what is affected is just going to be video games. And, that's, we just won't be casting for that unless they have the proper contracts. And then, kind of second part of your question there, does everything else drop as a result? No. In fact, I've even had commercial clients saying, hey, I heard about the SAG-AFTRA strike, are a lot of actors going to not be working? And it's like, you only do commercials, so you're good to go. That has nothing to do with the contracts, but even
the big strike last year too didn't really affect us much.
Yep.
Because
yeah,
the commercial space
so
stayed wide open.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And a huge game that we were working on is actually on hold at the moment. So it's also like the timing, probably makes sense. But yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's pull up Ellen's question here. If we live near an external recording studio, do you prefer that talent go into the studio or just record from their home studios? It all depends. It depends on what what kind of a home studio you have. If you have a good quality home studio, then great. Depending on for the job, if the client has a preference, there are some who are like, they want to make sure that the recording is great and might want you to go to an external studio. But a lot of times like home studio is fine as long as it's a high quality, broadcast quality studio. So that's totally up to you. And then there's also the option, if they want to book you from the home studio, they don't have, money for an external studio. Then and that happens as well, especially nowadays since a lot of people have home studios. You can also, if you're like, I don't want to engineer, this is a big project, I'm gonna rent a studio myself and pay for it out of pocket. That's fine too. We've had many people
some actors prefer that too. I mean, it's a lot of work to engineer and act. You're doing like 3 things at one time. Some actors actually prefer to go, even though they have a home studio, they prefer to go to an external studio just so they don't have to worry about all the other stuff. They could just focus on doing the voiceover job.
Yep. Yeah, be the actor.
Yeah.
Instead of being the engineer.
What a concept.
Engineering is hard enough to then have to do the performance and the engineering. It's like
making sure you're recording, making sure your levels are good.
Yeah.
It's a lot of multitasking.
Yes. All right, let's see. Nora said, I heard a casting director recently say they will not listen to an audition that begins with improv lead-in. How often is that the case? I always try and start with lead-in. That can be cut. My first read is on the 6th. I love lead-ins. I love improv. It's such a huge thing that is going to help you stand out. So right now with conversational, everything is conversational. That's a conversation for another day. I could talk for hours about conversational. But it is one of those things where I'm seeing more where they're not just looking for the do nothing conversational, they are looking for personality. They want you to bring yourself to it. I'm seeing more in specs where they want comedy. They want to hear the improv. They want to hear the imperfections, that, those kinds of things are cropping up more in specs, which is way more fun. So you get to let loose a little bit. But lead-ins, you're not going to leave all of them in. First of all, you can use them on every single take because they are like magic for getting into the copy right from the first word. We've said this before where it's like we have 3 to 5 seconds. We're listening to the first 3 to 5 seconds of each take. And from there, it's like those 3 to 5 seconds on each take have to be different. So a lead-in is a perfect way to get you into a different spot for every, or into a different read for every single take. Now, if the lead-in is short, it works with the copy and it can be cut. It's not attached to the first word, then even better. I love those and I'm totally fine with that because as we're clicking through hundreds of auditions, so many, as we're clicking through those, sometimes that is something that just stands out to me. Yes, there are going to be people who don't want to hear that. It's like sometimes if you know your audience, it's like now you've heard it here. Voicecaster's okay with that. Other places,
I always leave that little space too, so that if anybody does want to edit it out, it's easy enough to just cut it.
Yeah, exactly. And we know our clients. So it's like if I'm going to send to a client, I'm like, oh, I love this lead in, but this client is not going to want to hear that. I'll cut it out before I send your audition. But you've caught my attention. You've gotten through that first step of getting your casting to the client. I will, we'll edit. Like we will edit. We'll flip-flop takes if we need to. We'll cut a take if it doesn't serve you, because we know the clients and we can we can do that. But I always love hearing things like that, especially if they work. And I've heard it on yours, Nora, specifically, and I love them. So I would say keep them
coming.
Yep. All right. Let's see what's next.
Herb had an interesting question.
Great. I received a call confirming my availability, but the next day I got an email saying we are releasing the hold. What does that mean?
It means the job's not happening right now.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, we hate those phone calls and emails just as much as you guys. We love checking your avails and we love booking you. We hate the releases. So a release can mean a couple of different things. It can mean they went with a different actor. It can mean the job was put on hold. It can mean the role was recast with a different spec. It can mean that the job was just never produced.
Or just that it's pushed back just another week or another day. Yep. Maybe they're releasing that day, but they're going to come back and check you for next week.
Yep. So yeah, it can mean any number of things, but essentially it's you don't have to hold your time, and if and when it comes back, we'll be back in touch. Yep. Good question. All right, let's see. Excellent. Okay, I don't see any other questions at the moment. Feel free to pop any questions that you guys have in the comments.
It could be about anything voiceover related.
I know we did have one come in from Dominic that we wanted to talk about. So we were casting an animatronic parrot, and he had the question, he emailed us and he was like, this might be a good thing to, for your next Q&A to let people know as well. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So he was asking us he's like, I wanted to squawk and I wanted to make some of the sounds that come with that character. He's like, but I didn't know if I could. And so, that is one of those things where, it kind of goes along the whole, even though it's a character, but it's still along those same lines of, throw it in. Anything that is going to make it more believable. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times on the commercial side, I'll tell people like, if a partial laugh comes out or a well or a sigh or whatever as you're reading the copy, you don't have to edit that stuff out. Like those are things
it more relatable and real sound.
Yes. And that, along those same lines, don't edit out all your breaths because people breathe.
Sound weird.
When we're looking for real people. People breathe.
It's okay.
Yes. I know that is a hard concept for people, but you do not have to.
You don't have to edit. If it's a big gasp, okay, but otherwise leave it.
Yep. But yeah, it's you're gonna honor the script, but adding in those sounds for sure. Squawks are going to enhance a parrot, right? How can you do a parrot without squawking? It's like you could use it as your lead in and then cut it out, and but no. Leave that stuff in. That enhances what you're doing. It makes it more believable. It really just ties it all together. And for characters, that is so, so important, So
all about making it come alive. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, you get to have fun.
Yeah. You can't have fun doing voiceover. What can you do?
No, then you're in the wrong career if you're not doing it. All right. I don't see any other questions. Do you guys have any other questions for us? We're here if you have questions. We do have other things that we can just kind of tell you about real quick before we hop off.
Yes.
We have kind of I know it's only July, but we do have kind of our last round of live classes. Everything is on our website with, Ben will probably post a link in there to where you can register for any of our classes. We have all of that going on right now. and basically scheduled through the rest of the year. So it's like
we've got some fun upcoming ones that we don't offer all the time, like our intermediate animation class. We only offer that maybe once or twice a year. It's taught by Dave Boat, and it's a great opportunity for actors with some animation experience to just help develop characters, get a better grasp on acting for animation in video games. That's a great one. And we have an Art of Accents class coming up. This one's really cool. It's in person, and you'll learn different accents from all over the world, but also regionally, stuff, American accents. And this is perfect for anybody that wants to do animation. You're going to use this all the time. Even, narration, even, maybe some commercial characters you could even pull these out for. So this is a great tool for anybody looking to get into those fields.
And on that one, I love, it's taught by Andrew Frankel, who is like a genius when it comes to accents. But he actually gets into like some of the history of it, and it's just like everybody has said like it's so fascinating. But then he kind of goes around region by region, so he'll give you a list of accents for that region that you can work on. So you also get to choose the ones that you're working on. So if you find you're auditioning a lot for a certain accent in animation or video games, then you can focus on that. He's kind of a genius in how it works, and like everybody raves about that class. So we have one more coming up. Runs only like once, maybe twice a year, so definitely don't miss out on that one. If you're local to LA, and then you just come to Voicecaster here. So
all of our other classes you can do over Zoom, and they're all really great. They're all you'll learn something from every one of them. We got great teachers, great content.
Yes, so many amazing things. And one of the newest things, and I'm going to talk about it because I'm so excited about it. So first of all, we released our first digital course that's, you can sign up for it. It's all on the Teachable platform. So it's, all these different modules. It's a 10 module mini course on the basics of voiceover. And in there we go over who's who, we go over some basics of home studios, we give you some resources and recommendations. We talk a lot about all of the basics, some of the things that are often kind of overlooked in classes, things that people are constantly asking me about that aren't necessarily covered anywhere else. Obviously, if you watch enough podcasts and listen to people and stuff, you'll get all that as well. Well, most of it, but these are also coming as casting director recommendations as well. So we actually have that. It's normally $79. It's on sale right now for $39, and we're just running that sale until August 1st. So just throwing that out there. But what I'm super excited about is our next big digital course, which is called Finding Your Authentic Voice. And it's a casting director's guide to finding your authentic connection. And that one is over 20 modules, 25 modules, with a bunch of bonus, videos, things from various workshops and stuff that I've taught as well. But that one goes very deep into, basically solving the issue of how do I find the authenticity in my commercial reads. So it's figuring out your voice. There's a lot of in-depth, work of who are you to you? Who are you to other people? How can you make adjustments? How can you find connections to this? We talk about brands, personality, all of that. So been working hard on this one, and I'm super excited to share it with you all soon. I don't have an actual launch date yet, but I'm excited. So I wanted to throw that out there that is going to be coming. And along with that one, so it's a, go at your own pace kind of a thing. But along with that one, we're also going to be setting up some Q&A Zoom calls for anybody who is in the course, so that you can also get some feedback, ask any extra questions that you might have as you go through the course and that sort of thing. So exciting. Let's see. I can see a few other questions. So Cecily, do you do any private coaching on Zoom? Absolutely. Yep. I think all of us do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
There's several of us.
Email us, and I can give you that information. We've got a rate sheet of who you can reach out to, how much it costs, all that kind of stuff.
And schedules are all a little different, so you'll schedule it with whichever casting director you want to work with. Awesome.
And Ellen had a question.
Yes. Okay, Ellen. Sometimes I'm not sure which way of pitch I should go. I'm middle-aged, not sure if I should audition with my natural older pitch or try and go younger.
I think a lot of that just depends on what the spec is.
Yeah, and being true to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
you're just talking
about trying to sound younger doesn't sound authentic, then don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's like something that you can easily get into, then sure, do it, you know, if you have that range. But I find commercially, obviously this is different when we're talking characters, animation, video games, but commercially, typically people fall comfortably within about a 10, maybe 15-year age range. So kind of figuring out, you know, is that what do you sound like? You know, so it doesn't matter what age you actually are.
Exactly.
You know, that's the amazing thing about voiceover. No one cares. How old do you sound? Do you sound like, you know, do you sound like you're in your 40s? Do you sound like you're 35 to 45? Do you sound like you're 32 to 45? You know, you can do early 30s. You know, it's like kind of figuring out what zone you're in. And then when you see auditions come through, you know, sometimes it's like you might be able to play a little bit younger than that or a little bit older than that. But kind of finding that sweet spot and really owning that versus trying to do everything.
Yes.
Because think about that, you know, and this goes for everybody. It's a great question, but also, you know, don't try to be something that you're not because somebody else is that.
Yeah.
And we want the person who is that versus the person who is just trying to be that. You know, it always goes back to that just be you, so that when somebody is trying to find you, they can find you.
Exactly.
You know,
there's like, something out there for everybody. There really is.
Yes. Yeah. So don't try to be everything to everybody.
Yeah. Then you'll never be anything to anyone.
It's like the you know, the what was I going to say? I was reading a comment and I totally explained.
Well, I always tell this story where it was Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob. He came in, you know, he comes here to record a lot of his auditions. And we were doing a session for a Honda commercial. And so the guy in the Honda commercial, he's your big, you know, typical announcer voice. We had just wrapped. Tom was coming up to record his auditions. The client came back and said, "Oh, shoot, we forgot to record one thing. Can we, you know, get the actor back in the booth?" So real quick, Tom was in the middle of something. I let him finish. We get the actor back in. He records his thing real quick. And then they're talking to each other after the session. And Tom was like, "Wow, that's, you know, I wish I had a voice like that big booming announcer. That's so cool. I wish I could do that." And the announcer guy's like, "What are you talking about? I wish I could do all the voices you're doing." You know? So not everyone can do everything, and everyone wishes they can do the thing they can't do. But, you know, just be true to what you do well. You know,
that reminded me of what I was going to say is like a lot of times actors are like, "But I can be taller, but I can make my nose smaller," you know, and it's like, but why? You know, just be you. There's no.
You're much more interesting.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we want. And then imagine how easy it would be going into a session knowing that like whatever you did on your audition was just so you that you don't have to think about it. You don't have to listen to your audition and try to match it and, you know, all this stuff. It's like you get to just be yourself. You know, which I know sometimes can be like one of the hardest things to be, but you know, getting used to that, I think as people get more used to that, then it becomes a lot easier as well. All right, let's see. Jacob said, "Do you think it's important to know how older commercials used to sound in addition to knowing how modern trends commercial?" I mean, it's always good to do your research, absolutely, because there will be times when, whether it's, you know, in an audition situation with casting or in a session where the client is like referencing something.
We just had a casting last week for something like that, where they were referencing the old trailer voices.
They wanted to
know
what that is. Yep. So yeah, knowing some of those references and stuff is absolutely valuable.
And they're fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I love watching old commercials.
Like we were talking about in one of my classes the micro machines.
Oh,
and like the FedEx. So when they had that kind of, and those were around the same time when they were both doing the like speedy talkie thing. And it's like, it's like, you know, you don't really see that kind of a thing anymore, but
but you never know when they can come back or when they,
Yeah. And if somebody mentions micro machines, you know what they're talking about.
You need to know what that is.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Let me see. Bill said, thought of another potential pain in the voice sector not having their business set up properly for invoice payments. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that goes along with just like being responsive, because there are times when I'm like, hey, I need your paperwork for this. Okay, great. I'll have it to you shortly. And then the next day it's like, hey, client really wants to get you paid. Please send me your paperwork. So absolutely make sure you have things in place and, have an idea of what you're doing. And not every job needs an invoice, but have a template ready for yourself. It takes, going to,
you can find them on Google. Just Google.
Find a template. Yeah, it's like they're so easy to find templates.
Mm-hmm.
Just have something set up, and that's another thing is on, as you're invoicing, make sure you have an invoice number. I feel like I see so many invoices come through that don't have an invoice number, and I'm like, how do you keep track of any of that? So it's also good for you to be able to keep track and make sure you're getting paid.
Exactly.
Don't rely on payroll companies or agent or anybody else to do that. Make sure you're getting your payments. Yeah. Good. All right. Any final questions before we hop off for today? As always, feel free to, mention any questions that you have. You can always email us any questions. If you can't make it to one of the live events, because we like to switch up the day and time just to kind of work with various schedules. I know people watch from around the world. I saw Nate is here, and he's like on a beach in Italy. So
you're watching us.
And he's still here with us. I know, that's dedication. But people do watch from around the world, so we do try to do. Sometimes we'll do like 4 p.m. Pacific or 10 a.m. Pacific, just to try to accommodate schedules. But we do like to hop on once a month and just kind of give you guys a little bit of the inside scoop that we're talking about. So anytime you have questions or if you have topics that you're like, oh, I'd love to hear more about this, we are always open to things. We're doing this for you guys. We want to help you guys from the casting side, because I know it's not always easy to hear from casting directors unless you're taking a workshop or things like that. So we want to make ourselves a little more accessible, and we love answering you guys' questions and helping you out as much as possible. We're on your side. All right. Well, then with that, we are going to sign off for today, and keep an eye on our Facebook and Instagram and our website. We will put the next date on there very soon so that you can check that out. And I see all the thank yous. You are all very welcome, and we'll see you next month.